A homeless black man walked into the Golden Pearl, one of the most expensive restaurants in downtown Chicago. His clothes were torn, his shoes had holes, and he carried a small backpack. The waiter took one look at him and said, "Get out. People like you don't belong here." But what happened in the next 15 minutes would make that waiter's face turn white with fear. Because the man he just insulted, he wasn't homeless at all. He was Marcus Chen, the secret billionaire owner of the entire restaurant chain. And he had just walked in to test his staff. What the waiter did next was captured on security cameras. And when Marcus revealed his true identity, the entire restaurant fell silent. This story will show you why you should never judge people by their appearance. Because sometimes the person you're insulting might be the one who signs your paycheck. Before we dive into this shocking story, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more incredible true stories like this one. Marcus Chen was 52 years old. He grew up poor in the south side of Chicago. His parents were immigrants who worked 3 jobs just to pay rent. Marcus remembered sleeping on a mattress on the floor, sharing one bedroom with his 2 brothers. But Marcus was smart. He studied hard, got scholarships, and eventually built a restaurant empire worth over $500 million. He owned 47 restaurants across America. The Golden Pearl was his newest location, opened just 6 months ago. Despite his wealth, Marcus never forgot where he came from. He still drove a regular car. He still wore simple clothes. And once a month, he did something unusual. He would dress up like a homeless person and visit his restaurants unannounced. Why? To see how his staff treated people who looked poor. "The way you treat the poorest customer tells me everything about your character," Marcus always said. Derek Mitchell was 28 years old. He had worked at the Golden Pearl for 4 months. He was good-looking, well-dressed, and excellent at serving rich customers. But Derek had a problem. He looked down on poor people. Derek grew up in a wealthy family in the suburbs. He had never struggled for money. He took this job because his father knew the restaurant manager. Derek thought serving tables was beneath him, but he needed the money to pay for his luxury apartment and expensive car. When Derek saw homeless people or poor customers, he treated them like trash. He would roll his eyes, make rude comments, and sometimes refuse to serve them at all. Other staff members noticed, but nobody reported him because Derek was friends with the assistant manager. It was a Friday evening, 6:30 p.m. The restaurant was starting to fill up with well-dressed customers, businessmen in suits, women in expensive dresses. The smell of grilled steak and wine filled the air. Marcus had been planning this test for weeks. He wanted to check on the Golden Pearl because he had heard complaints about rude staff, so he put on old, torn clothes. He rubbed dirt on his face and hands. He messed up his hair. He looked exactly like someone who had been living on the streets. Marcus walked toward the Golden Pearl's entrance, carrying his small backpack. He was about to test Derek Mitchell, and Derek had no idea that his entire career was about to explode. Marcus pushed open the glass door. The cool air conditioning hit his face. The restaurant was beautiful. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. White tablecloths covered every table. Soft piano music played in the background. Customers turned to look at Marcus. Some wrinkled their noses. Others whispered to each other. A woman pulled her purse closer. Derek was standing near the host stand, checking his phone. When he looked up and saw Marcus, his face twisted with disgust. "Excuse me, sir," Marcus said politely. "Do you have a table available?" Derek's eyes went wide. He looked Marcus up and down like he was looking at garbage. "Are you serious right now?" Derek said loudly. Several customers turned to watch. "Yes," "I'd like to have dinner," Marcus replied calmly. Derek laughed. Not a friendly laugh, a mean, mocking laugh. "Listen, buddy, this is a five-star restaurant. Our cheapest meal costs $75. I don't think you can afford a glass of water here." Derek crossed his arms. "You need to leave before I call security." Marcus stayed calm. "I have money." "I just want a table." Derek stepped closer. His voice got nastier. "You have money? Where? In that dirty backpack? Look at yourself. You smell like the street. You're making our customers uncomfortable. Get out. Now." A few customers nodded in agreement. One man said, "Yeah, he should go." But an elderly woman at a nearby table looked uncomfortable. She whispered to her husband, "That's so rude." "He's a human being." Marcus reached into his backpack slowly. Derek stepped back, looking nervous. Marcus pulled out a wallet. It was old and worn, but inside were several $100 bills. I can pay," Marcus said, showing the money. Derek's face turned red, not from embarrassment, from anger. "I don't care if you robbed a bank. You're not eating here. People like you bring down the atmosphere. This is a place for successful people, professionals, not people like you." Derek looked at the hostess. "Call the manager." The assistant manager, Brian Cooper, walked over. Brian was 35, tall, and always acted like he was more important than he was. Brian was friends with Derek. They went to bars together after work. "What's the problem here?" Brian asked. Derek pointed at Marcus. "This homeless guy is trying to get a table. I told him to leave, but he won't listen." Brian looked at Marcus with the same disgusted expression. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This establishment has a dress code." "I didn't see any sign about a dress code," Marcus said calmly. "Well, there is one. Business casual at minimum." Brian crossed his arms, copying Derek's pose. "You're clearly not dressed appropriately." Marcus looked around the restaurant. He pointed at a young man at a corner table wearing jeans and a t-shirt. "That customer is wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Are you going to ask him to leave?" Brian's face flushed. "That's different." "How is it different?" Marcus asked. "It just is," Brian snapped. "Look, I don't have time for this. Either you leave voluntarily, or I call the police." The elderly woman from before stood up. "This is wrong. You're treating him badly because of how he looks. He has money. He's being polite." "What's the problem?" Derek spun toward her. "Ma'am, please stay out of this." "No," she said firmly. "I've been coming to this restaurant for months. I've never seen staff act this way. You should be ashamed." Brian walked over to the woman's table. "Ma'am, if you have a complaint, you can call corporate. But right now, you need to let us handle this situation." The woman's husband pulled her arm gently. "Honey, sit down. It's not our business." She sat down reluctantly, but she kept watching. Marcus remained standing near the entrance. Other customers were filming on their phones now. Marcus noticed, but didn't react. "Last chance," Brian said to Marcus. "Leave now, or I'm calling the police for trespassing." Marcus started to turn toward the door. Derek smirked, thinking he had won. But then Marcus stopped. "Can I at least use the bathroom before I go?" Marcus asked. "It's a long walk to the shelter." Derek laughed meanly. "The bathrooms are for paying customers only." "I'm a human being who needs to use the restroom," Marcus said quietly. "Then you should have thought about that before you came into a nice place like this," Derek shot back. His voice was getting louder. He was enjoying this. "You people always want something for free, always making problems. Why don't you go back to wherever you came from?" The restaurant went silent. Even the piano music seemed to stop. That last comment crossed a line. It wasn't just about Marcus being dressed poorly anymore. Derek's racism was showing clearly now. The elderly woman gasped. "That's racist!" Brian quickly tried to cover for Derek. "He didn't mean it that way." "Yes, I did," Derek interrupted. He was too angry to think straight. "I'm tired of pretending. People like him ruin nice neighborhoods. They bring crime. They bring drugs. I work hard to serve good customers, and then someone like him walks in and expects us to treat him like he belongs here? Please." Several customers looked shocked. A few got up and started walking toward the exit. One man said to the hostess, "Cancel my reservation. I'm not eating here." But some customers nodded in agreement with Derek. One businessman said, "He's not wrong. Standards matter." Marcus stood there, taking it all in. He showed no anger on his face, just sadness. "I'm going to leave," Marcus said quietly. "But I want you to know something, Derek. The way you treat people says everything about who you are. Not about them, about you." Derek laughed again. "Okay, Confucius. Thanks for the life lesson. Now get out." Marcus walked toward the door slowly. He reached for the handle, and then he stopped. He turned around. And this time, something in his expression had changed. His posture straightened. His eyes became sharp and focused. "Actually," Marcus said, his voice suddenly stronger, "I think I will stay. Because there's something you both need to know." Brian and Derek looked at each other, confused. Marcus reached into his backpack again. This time, he pulled out his phone, an expensive iPhone in a leather case. Then he pulled out his wallet again. But this time, he opened it fully. Inside was his ID, his credit cards, and a business card. He walked back to Brian and handed him the business card. Brian's face went white. His hands started shaking as he read the card. Marcus Chen, founder and CEO, Chen Restaurant Group. Owner, the Golden Pearl. The business card slipped from Brian's fingers and fell to the floor. Derek saw Brian's reaction and grabbed the card. He looked at it, then looked at Marcus, then looked at the card again. This is a joke, right?" Derek stammered. His cocky smile was completely gone. "This is fake." Marcus pulled out his real ID and held it up. The security camera above the entrance clearly captured everything. "My name is Marcus Chen," he said loudly, so everyone in the restaurant could hear. "I am the owner of this restaurant. I own all 47 Golden Pearl locations across the country. I am also the owner of Chen Restaurant Group, which is worth over $500 million. The restaurant erupted in gasps and whispers. Marcus continued, his voice calm but powerful. "Once a month I visit my restaurants dressed like this. I do it to test my staff, to see how they treat people who look different, who look poor, who look like they don't belong." He looked directly at Derek. "Because I grew up poor. My family struggled, and I promised myself that if I ever became successful, I would never forget what it feels like to be treated like you don't matter." Derek's face had gone from white to red to white again. Sweat dripped down his forehead. "Mr. Chen, I didn't know—" "That's exactly the point," Marcus cut him off. "You didn't know. You treated me like garbage because you thought I was nobody. But Derek, that's the problem. You should treat everyone with respect. Not because they might be your boss. Not because they might be rich. But because they're human beings." Brian tried to speak. "Mr. Chen, if I had known—" "Brian, stop," Marcus said. "If you had known it was me, you would have been polite." But that doesn't mean anything. The test isn't about how you treat your boss. It's about how you treat a stranger who can't do anything for you. Marcus pulled out his phone and tapped the screen a few times. He turned it toward Brian and Derek. "This restaurant has 14 security cameras," Marcus said. "Everything that happened in the last 20 minutes was recorded. Every insult, every racist comment, everything." On the phone screen was the restaurant's security feed. Marcus had access to all of it from his phone. He played back a clip. Derek's voice came through clearly. "People like him ruin nice neighborhoods. They bring crime. They bring drugs." Several customers gasped again. Some of the ones who had nodded in agreement earlier now looked uncomfortable. Marcus put his phone away. "Brian, I also have reports from other staff members. 6 different servers have reported Derek for racist behavior toward customers over the past 3 months. Do you know what you did with those reports?" Brian said nothing. His face answered the question. "You ignored them," Marcus said, "because Derek is your friend. You protected him instead of protecting our customers and our restaurant's reputation." The elderly woman who had defended Marcus earlier stood up again. "Good! Fire them both." Other customers started clapping. Not everyone, but enough. Marcus held up his hand. "Please, let me finish." Marcus walked closer to Derek. Derek actually took a step backward. "Derek, you're fired. Effective immediately. You have 10 minutes to collect your things and leave the property. Security will escort you out." Derek's mouth opened, but no words came out. "Brian, you're also fired. You're the assistant manager. Your job is to maintain standards and protect our customers. You failed. You protected a racist employee instead of doing what's right." Brian finally found his voice. "Mr. Chen, please. I have a family. I have a mortgage. I made a mistake." "You made multiple mistakes," Marcus corrected. "Over several months. This wasn't one bad decision. This was a pattern. I'm sorry, but my decision is final." Marcus turned to address the whole restaurant. "To all our customers who are here tonight, I sincerely apologize that you had to witness this. Your meals tonight are completely free. Please enjoy your evening." The customers erupted in applause. Even the ones who had earlier agreed with Derek were now clapping, probably hoping Marcus wouldn't remember that they had nodded along. Marcus turned to the hostess, a young woman named Jessica, who had watched everything with wide eyes. "Jessica, can you call our head of human resources? Tell her we need someone here immediately to handle terminations and to review our hiring practices." "Yes, sir, Mr. Chen," Jessica said quickly. Marcus then spotted the elderly woman. He walked over to her table. "Thank you," he said to her. "Thank you for speaking up. Most people stay silent, but you didn't. Because of people like you, the world becomes a better place." The woman smiled, tears in her eyes. "I just did what's right. My parents taught me that everyone deserves respect." Marcus nodded. "What's your name?" "Dorothy. Dorothy Williams." "Mrs. Williams, from now on, whenever you dine at any of my restaurants, your meal is free, for life. I'm going to add you to our VIP list." The restaurant applauded again. Derek, still standing frozen near the entrance, finally spoke. "This is unfair. You set me up. You tricked me." Marcus turned to face him one last time. "I didn't trick you, Derek. I gave you an opportunity to show your character. You showed me exactly who you are, and that's not someone I want representing my business." 2 security guards had arrived. Marcus nodded to them, and they escorted both Derek and Brian out of the restaurant. Derek was yelling protests all the way out. Brian went quietly, his head down. As the doors closed behind them, the restaurant erupted in applause one more time. The story exploded on social media within hours. Multiple customers had filmed parts of the confrontation. By midnight, #RacistWaiterFired was trending nationwide on Twitter and TikTok. The video with the most views showed Derek saying, "People like him ruin nice neighborhoods," followed by the moment Marcus revealed his identity. That clip alone got 12 million views in the first 24 hours. Comments flooded in. "This is why you should never judge people by appearance." That waiter's face when he realized who he was talking to. Priceless. The owner is a legend for doing this test. Every business should do this. I'm crying. That elderly lady who stood up for him is a hero too. Local news stations picked up the story. By Saturday morning, Marcus was getting calls from CNN, NBC, and ABC asking for interviews. Marcus agreed to an interview with a local Chicago news station. He sat in his office, now dressed in a nice suit, looking completely different from the homeless man from the night before. "Why do you do these tests?" the reporter asked. Marcus answered thoughtfully. "Because character is revealed when people think no one important is watching." Derek and Brian showed their true colors when they thought they were dealing with someone powerless. "That tells me they're not the kind of people I want working for me." Some people online are saying this was a gotcha moment, that it was unfair to trick them. Marcus shook his head. "I didn't trick anyone. I simply looked different." If your respect for people depends on how they look, or how much money you think they have, then you don't actually respect people. You respect status and wealth. That's not the same thing. Derek tried to defend himself on social media. He posted a long statement on Facebook. "I was just doing my job. The restaurant has standards. I was trying to protect our customers. I never meant any harm. Mr. Chen set me up and ruined my career over one mistake." The post got destroyed in the comments. "One mistake? You made racist comments. That's not a mistake. That's who you are. You weren't protecting customers. You were being a bully. You got what you deserved. Don't play the victim now." Derek's post got so much hate that he deleted it within 3 hours. His other social media accounts went private. According to friends, Derek moved back in with his parents and was struggling to find another job. No restaurant wanted to hire the racist waiter from the viral video. Brian handled it differently. He posted a public apology. "I failed as a manager and as a human being. I protected my friend instead of protecting our customers. I allowed racist behavior to continue because I didn't want to make waves. I was wrong. I'm deeply sorry. I'm going to use this as a learning experience to become better." His apology got mixed reactions. Some people appreciated his honesty. Others said it was too little, too late. Brian enrolled in diversity training and anger management courses. 6 months later, he got a job at a different restaurant, starting over as a regular server instead of management. He told a friend, "I deserved what happened. I'm just trying to be better now." Marcus used this incident to make major changes across all his restaurants. First, he implemented mandatory quarterly training for all staff on treating customers with dignity and respect, regardless of appearance. Second, he created an anonymous reporting system so employees could report discrimination without fear of retaliation. Third, he started doing his undercover tests twice a month instead of once. Sometimes he dressed as a homeless person, sometimes as a janitor, sometimes as a tourist who didn't speak English well. He wanted to test every kind of bias. Fourth, he changed the hiring process. Now, every potential employee had to go through a scenario test where they interacted with actors playing difficult or undesirable customers. If they failed the test, they didn't get hired. The results were dramatic. Customer satisfaction scores went up by 23% across all locations. Employee retention improved, and the Golden Pearl chain got featured in several business magazines as a model for ethical business practices. This story became more than just a viral moment. It started important conversations across America. Schools started using the video as a teaching tool about respect and dignity. Churches and community groups held discussions about how we judge people based on appearance. One high school teacher in Ohio told her students, "This video shows you that character is what you do when you think no one important is watching." Derek thought he was dealing with someone who couldn't hurt his career, so he showed his true self. Always remember that every person you meet deserves respect, regardless of what they can do for you. A pastor in Texas used the story in a sermon. Mrs. Dorothy Williams is the hero of this story. She spoke up when she saw injustice, even though it wasn't her fight. She risked making other customers uncomfortable. She risked the staff being angry at her, but she did what was right anyway. That's courage. Marcus himself gave a speech at a business conference 3 months later. He said, "People ask me if that test was harsh. They say I was sneaky. They say Derek and Brian deserve a second chance. Here's what I say to that. How you treat people when they can't benefit you shows your true character. Derek didn't make one mistake. He made choices. He chose to insult me. He chose to use racist language. He chose to deny me basic human dignity, like using a bathroom. Those weren't mistakes. That was his character showing. And Brian chose to protect his friend instead of doing what was right. He ignored multiple complaints. He enabled bad behavior. That's also character. But Mrs. Dorothy Williams? She chose to speak up for a stranger. That's character too. And that's why she gets free meals at my restaurants for life." The audience gave him a standing ovation. The lasting impact. 1 year later, Marcus did an interview reflecting on the incident. The reporter asked if he regretted how it played out. "The only thing I regret," Marcus said, "is that people like Derek and Brian existed in my organization in the first place. But I'm glad we found them. I'm glad we removed them. And I'm glad this story inspired other business owners to examine their own practices." The reporter asked about Dorothy Williams. Marcus smiled. "Mrs. Williams has dinner at one of my restaurants at least once a week. She's become a friend. She even helped me design some of our new training materials. She's proof that one person speaking up can make a difference." Dorothy herself, in a separate interview, said, "I'm 68 years old. I grew up during the civil rights movement. I've seen too many people stay silent when they should speak up. I wasn't about to sit there and watch that young man be abused. I don't care if he really was homeless or if he was a billionaire. Wrong is wrong." The final message. Marcus Chen's story spread far beyond one restaurant in Chicago. It became a reminder that every person deserves dignity and respect. It showed that character is revealed in how we treat people who seemingly can't do anything for us. It proved that one person speaking up, like Dorothy, can change an entire situation. And it reminded business owners everywhere that the culture you create in your organization matters. Every hire matters. Every manager matters. Every policy matters. Derek Mitchell learned that racism and cruelty have consequences. His career in restaurants was over. His reputation was destroyed. All because he couldn't treat a stranger with basic respect. Brian Cooper learned that protecting bad behavior makes you complicit. Staying silent makes you part of the problem. And Marcus Chen showed the world that success doesn't mean forgetting where you came from. Despite being worth $500 million, he still remembered what it felt like to be powerless. And he used his power to protect people who are. If this story moved you, inspired you, or taught you something, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We share real stories about justice, karma, and people getting exactly what they deserve. Don't miss the next one. Remember, never judge someone by their appearance. That homeless person on the street might be your boss. That janitor might be a genius. That quiet kid might be the next great leader. Treat everyone with respect, not because of who they might be, but because of who you are. Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.